Hello beautiful beings, Mim from Mystic Pathways here, coming to you on the 22nd of June in the Southern Hemisphere. That's winter solstice. In the Northern Hemisphere, of course, it's the summer solstice. So I'm going to be touching base on the winter solstice, the universal principle of mentalism, and the Noble Eightfold Path of right thought. Trying to combine them all together as the second Sabbath of the wheel of the year. We did the first one, which was winter, the beginning of May, and now this is the heart of winter, the 21st, 22nd of June, traditionally. Sometimes the actual date can vary depending upon astronomical timing, but as a traditional date to celebrate winter solstice or summer solstice, it's the 21st and 22nd of June. Also known as Alban Arthen, and also known as Yule. And solstice means standstill. So for a few days of the year, the sun appears to rise and set in the same place, depending upon where you are. And it's the night, last night, is when Earth's very breath seems to falter in the face of the overpowering darkness. Then from this night onwards, and with such subtlety, the sun begins the long journey towards the opposite pole, and all creation begins to exhale. A cycle of new life can begin once again, but it only appears as if the sun begins the long journey, when in reality it's Earth that is tilting on her axis, coming full circle yet again. Turning furthest from the sun, we're in winter solstice. Now we've reached this peak, this zenith. The Earth will now tilt back towards the sun. So the southern hemisphere, the days will start to get longer, and in the northern hemisphere, the days will start to get shorter. And it's Gaia going through her cycles of death and rebirth that all of nature understands and obeys. It's just part of that cycle. The plants, the animals, they all know it comes winter, they do their thing, comes out again, they come out of hibernation, or they start to, well, it's been the mating season, so most animals probably pregnant at this time as well. And I realized that about with the sun is it's not the sun rising, it's actually the Earth tilting towards. And so I saw that as us bowing towards the sun. It's not coming up, we're actually bowing down to it. So you imagine the sun's here and I'm standing here on the Earth. It looks like the sun's coming up, but it's not. It's actually we're going down, and so I get to see the sun. I hope that makes sense. The nature of winter solstice may evoke within us a deep sense of loss and a letting go of what no longer has endured, especially if you do live by the wheel of the year and you see this time last year, what were you dreaming? What were you clearing? What were you hoping for? And then you can see, did it manifest? So sometimes we've got to grieve the things that we wanted to happen that didn't happen. This is a time of coming full circle, going, well, that didn't work out, did it? Or you didn't put energy towards something that you wanted to put energy towards, and that didn't manifest. So there's a grieving in that. Or you can come around and plant that seed again and be determined to actually put energy towards it. And so the nature of winter solstice may evoke within us a deep sense of loss and a letting go of what no longer has endured. And a lot of deciduous trees do that. They just let go of their leaves, they fall, they pull their energy in, and they wait for the right time where they can feel the change and the shift again. And they start to put that energy into their leaves, into their new growth, and they start to do their thing again. So with the turning of Earth's axis, towards the sun, we too start to turn towards the light, the sun's rays of hope and faith. And it's been a journey. It's been the winter, I find, even living by the wheel of the year, for me, it's a journey into aspects of myself that I was ready to see. Maybe I wasn't prepared to see what was coming, but obviously ready to see, otherwise I wouldn't have seen them. And change is so important. When, as a human being, when we're not meant to be stagnant and we're not meant to stay the same 24/7, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. There is an evolving process. Otherwise, it would still be children or teenagers or 20s. And then there are some people who are stuck in that timeline, and healing can help shift that. A shift in perspective can help that. Self-reflection can help that. And this is where it's a journey into aspects of ourselves that we were ready to see and change. And if not, that's okay. They'll come back round. Everything cycles. So what doesn't get dealt with will come back round. And I had this realization the other week that people don't come along to give us lessons. They actually come along to give us the test. And so it's like, oh my God, I've got to sit for this test and I have no idea what the lesson is. And that's why sometimes we can repeat the same test. Maybe not even with the same person, but the test nonetheless with somebody else. So we repeat the test until we get what the lessons are. And the lessons are to do with us, not other people. It's these things come along to test us to see, what have I integrated? What have I healed? What have I reconciled? What have I learned from? What have I grown? And I always see it as a golden opportunity to be able to put into practice the teachings, to put into practice the things that you've learned, the therapy that you've gone through, the teachings that you've read, the understanding and realization of how do you let go. These times when we're tested, they are the time where we get to put these things into practice, because how else and when else would we put them into practice? So with the turning of Earth's axis towards the sun, we too start to turn towards the light, the sun's rays of hope and faith. Winter solstice marks a time when we begin to think about preparing the soil to plant the seed, both literally and metaphorically. Years ago, I had this vision of winter and this beautiful field or paddock, whatever you want to call it, a field, and it had been harvested and it had been cleared, and it was just this beautiful, rich, brown soil and earth, and then you could see the dead trees, you could see the dead fallen over logs, you could see the boulders. And so the winter, you come in and you clear the field. It's a bit like our minds. We look within and we can see what blocks us. We can look and see what's hindering us, or what thoughts are we holding on to that need to be pulled out by the roots and gotten rid of. So it was a really good metaphor for me to understand there comes a point where we do need to bear witness to the field, to our own behaviours, intents and actions and deeds, to see what needs clearing, what needs weeding and what needs removing, and then settling. There does come a point where you settle the soil and you let it rest. And so while the soil's resting, we rest. And that's the time when we start to reconcile. That's the time when we start to nurture and enrich ourselves from the inside out. So spiritually, we can use the next 6 weeks, because from here on in, we're moving in towards spring. Spring's next, and spring for when you're living by the wheel of the year starts in 6 weeks' time. The weather may be cold still, but spring starts there. It's all of a sudden, it doesn't go cold then hot, or hot then cold. There is this transition period, and autumn and spring tend to be those transition seasons where they're made up the cold as the warm's coming in, or they're made up the warm and when the cold's coming in, and we get those really big storms because of the weather's changing. And autumn and spring are those transitional periods. So spring starts the 1st of August, and the heart of spring is the 21st of September. So we can use these next 6 weeks. So we've sat with what we harvested and what we didn't harvest. We've sat with looking at our unconscious or our subconscious, or even our conscious thoughts, actions, deeds, words and behaviours, to see what needs repeating because it worked, or what needs clearing because it didn't work, what needs removing because it's an old, outdated mode of operandi or belief or action that needs to evolve, that needs to mature, that needs to be grown up. Now, so the next 6 weeks, we can use it to get rid of any final residual crap that's holding us back, any last-ditch efforts of resistance, and then rest. And it's not rest on your laurels, but rest in nurturing yourself. Start to see the whys, the what-ifs, and the why-nots. So start dreaming and planning how you could start doing things differently to get that result that you're looking for. Now is the time, so that when it comes spring, and literally and metaphorically, we start planting those seeds. Because it's where energy goes, energy flows, reality grows, and results show. So we wind back and we go, okay, what focus? Where are we going to put our focus? In our everyday chop wood, carry water, mundane lives, because that's where we want the magic. We want the magic in our everyday lives, not when we go to retreat or we go to here, there, and everywhere. We want to bring the magic into our everyday lives. So how can you do that? How can you bring that magic to your everyday, boring, mundane, water the garden, wash the clothes, do the dishes, cooking, driving around, paying the bills? That's where you want the magic. So what can you do? And so this led me to raking the sand. At winter solstice, we are at a pivotal time of clearing and intention setting. The past 6 weeks gave us an opportunity to let go of old ways and unmet expectations. And that's the thing about expectations, especially unmet expectations, is sometimes we're not even aware we had them until we're disappointed. And then we realise, with self-reflection, I had these expectations that I didn't voice, I didn't share. They were unmet expectations. And so even that's a lesson in itself, that be clear in your communication about your expectations. So the other person is given the opportunity to say, oh yes, I can meet that expectation, or I can try to meet that expectation, or no, that's way out of my what I want to give as an expectation, however you want to word it. So expectations are really important to voice and clear. And then there are some expectations that you just assume would be normal, especially in relationships. Like, you don't go into a relationship or even a friendship or with work colleagues expecting to be treated poorly or misused or used or abused. So there is a certain level of expectations that don't get spoken to me, and that depends on your own integrity and your own honor and your own values and morals, how that happens. And you don't know someone's behavior or who they are until you spend time with them and get to know them. And so that's, you got to keep the rational mind engaged. So the past 6 weeks gave us an opportunity to let go of old ways, if we were paying attention, and any unmet expectations. And like, have a look at your own expectations. Are they unrealistic or are they actually realistic? And if that person is, or environment or reaction to something or experience, doesn't have to be person, doesn't have to be relationships, it's just expectations. It could be expectations from whatever you're creating or your behavior, or doesn't have to be with somebody else. But it's like, have a look at your expectations. Are they realistic? And if they're not, maybe do something about it. And if they are, maybe try and live up to them a little bit better this time round. So now we have the opportunity during the next 6 weeks to refine and define new ways and openness to fresh opportunities. There's no point harbouring or holding on to things that didn't work out or things that we resisted change with, because that's where our focus is going. So we want our focus to go to things where it's going to flow, and new opportunities and growth, and try again, bringing that freshness and bringing that curiosity and bringing that wonder and energy to meet these opportunities. So take this time over the next 6 weeks to sit in meditation, raking the sand, so to speak, allowing stillness to enter, to see, hear, feel, dream your way forward. Raking the sand is a form of meditation with the intent to imitate the intimate essence of nature, not its actual appearance, and the true meaning of life. Keeping your connection to your environment, nature, aids in connecting with yourself. It is in those times you may come to face with yourself, That can be confronting, coming face to face with yourself. And the connecting with your environment and nature aids in connecting with yourself, and that's part of the beingness. That's the part of the balance I talked about before in another video, is finding that balance between doing and being. Because if you're doing all the time, you might be distracting yourself from something that you may need to change and listen to and hear and embody and reconcile. So it's really important to carve out that time to listen, to think, to muse, to dream, to wander. So then you might have a different direction, or you might have the fuel that will help drive you into a life that you love living. Maybe. So it's in those times that you may come face to face with yourself, and with an inquisitive mind, not a judgmental mind, an inquisitive mind, you may hear that which needs hearing to either heal, let go of, embody, or follow. And I see raking the sand as a reminder of connecting back in with your own inner voice, the voice that speaks from above all things. And I usually do. I hear it above myself, at the back of myself. It's like this higher wisdom. And we do. If we've got an inner child within us, we have a wise elder in us. So it's like learning to tap into, what would that wise medicine person do, man or woman? What would that wise medicine elder say? What does the rational mind tell me? What does logic tell me? What does critical thinking tell me? It's like sometimes we can get too lost in our emotions, and we can get too stuck in that left thinking brain, which is now corrupt and retarded from trauma, abuse, social conditioning, cultural conditioning, religious conditioning. It's corrupted a lot of the way we think, and yet we believe everything we think, and we act on every emotion, and yet they're not based on reality or the now. So then we do have to try and practice this pause to find a better direction, a better way forward. And I see raking the sand as a reminder of connecting back in with yourself. And it never ceases to humble me, the feeling of peace when I'm in nature. And it just could be a meander down the road with all the trees and the birds and the animals and all the bits and pieces. Just the tranquility that you can find being in nature, and not so much concrete walls and concrete floors and microwaves and energy waves, all those things. It's like, remove yourself away from that as often as you can and get yourself into nature. You know, we breathe in what the trees breathe out, and the trees breathe in what we breathe out. It's a very symbiotic relationship we have with nature, especially trees and plants. So winter solstice is a time of going within and listening, not to the monkey mind dribble that seeks to inflate, but the heart of your soul, the part of you that dreams and connects you to all around you. That's your winter solstice. So now we're going to look at the principle of mentalism by the Kabbalion. It's one of the universal principles is mentalism. The all is mind. The universe is mental, quoted by the Kabbalion. The all, which is the substantial reality underlying all the outward manifestations and appearances which we know under the terms of the material universe, the phenomena of life or matter or energy, and in short, all that is apparent to our material senses. So what that means, the all is a substantial reality of what we're living in, what we're looking at, what I'm touching, what I'm smelling, what I'm feeling. This manifestation that all of us are in on this planet Earth is spirit. You can't get away from it. The Kabbalion. This principle helps us understand that the universe is simply a mental creation of the all, which is what I just talked about, subject to the laws of created things, and which just to me is God, and that the universe as a whole and in its parts or units has its existence in the mind of the all, in which mind we live and move and have our being. If we didn't have our mind, we wouldn't be part of this creation. We wouldn't be part of this manifestation. You know, even people that are put on, life support machines, but they're brain dead. They're not interacting. They're not part of. We can see them because our mind's engaged. Their mind's not engaged. And so you can see how the mind is vital to interpreting all the information that comes in through our eyes, our ears, our nose, our skin, everything, our senses, our subtle senses, is all processed and determined by not just the mind, but we have a gut brain and a heart brain. But the most part, it's the mind that projects then the information and how we interface with that information. I hope that makes sense and you can wrap your head around it. The mental nature of the universe easily explains all the varied mental and psychic phenomena that defy scientific testing. Consciousness, the phenomena that makes you you. You can't science it. You can't replicate it. You can't record it. It's unchangeable. It's not the same. So consciousness cannot be scienced. This is the master key that unlocks many doors to the mental and psychic temple of knowledge. This is the underpinning principle, mentalism, in comprehending and applying the remaining 6 universal principles. It's all your thoughts. It's your mind. It's what you engage in. It's even altered states of consciousness. There is so much information that helps us live in this consciousness if we can learn to listen and try and incorporate them both. So by understanding this principle, we may use this mentalism, our thoughts, what are we thinking, where focus goes, energy flows. By understanding this principle, we may use this as the dream seed for manifestation. Sit with thoughts around this principle being the basis for entering the deep void of winter, the clearing and the dreaming, where we dream of the seeds we wish to plant come spring. Because the universe is mentalism, it's all going to be based on our thoughts, our energy, our focus. So by understanding this, sit with your thoughts around this principle. In this time of deep winter, for what seeds do you want to plant? What change or what do you want to experience in your life in the next 12 months, which is the wheel of the year, the cycle? It'll be about 10 months now because we started the cycle back in May. So our thoughts set up the meanings we attach to our experience. They say life has no experience. Life has no meaning until we give it meaning. And we don't stop to realize what meaning are we giving life. So our thoughts set up the meanings we attach to our experiences. And it's the same with our memories. We have these specific narratives attached to our memories, which we don't rephrase once we're older and we can look back with more wisdom or more truth, with that clarity of hindsight and self-reflection on the narratives we have associated to memories. Because then that'll help shift us out of the victim mindset. It'll help us be able to let go of that narrative and not keep using it as a foundation to springboard life from. So our thoughts set up the meanings we attach to our experiences. Those thoughts create a frequency, a vibration that resonates out to the cosmos, then, like an echo, reflects back to us by the feedback loop. So thoughts have a frequency. So we know this. So when you're angry, when you're resentful, when you're in those really dark, lower vibrational thoughts and feelings, you know how that feels, and you know what it's like to be around people that are in that state. You can sense it, you can feel it. So that has a vibration, that has a frequency that sends out, and it's going to find you back. It's the feedback loop. And so this is part of the harmonizing yourself, so we're not keep setting ourselves up for those karmic paybacks, the feedback loop. So I'll read that one again. So thoughts create a frequency, a vibration that resonate out to the cosmos like an echo. It reflects back to us by the feedback loop, our experiences. Like attracts like, fear attracts fear, victim attracts victimization, But by mastering our mental processes and intentions, we can create a different experience. The thought plants the seed. As humans, our brains are literally divided into two physical, complete, separate hemispheres. The left hemisphere is known as the thinking brain. The right hemisphere is known as the intuitive brain. It is a spinal cord that physically connects these two separate hemispheres, yet they interface 24/7. The left hemisphere assists your physical body interface with the physical material 3D world by like picking up this, being able to have a sip of my tea. That left thinking brain, which is programmable. It has to be programmable. Otherwise, we have to learn to eat, talk, walk, and all that kind of thing every day. So with repetition, it becomes programmed into that left thinking brain. And it helps us interface with this material world. Whereas the right hemisphere assists your physical body interface with the unseen in intuitive worlds. So think about when you're walking down a street and the hairs on the back of your neck stand up and you sense danger. That's your intuitive brain kicking in. Or you walk into a room or you walk into a temple and you can feel the peace and the harmony and the love. You sense that as well. And when you meet somebody and you feel like you've known them all your life, or you've just click with them straight away, or you meet somebody and you slowly back away because you're sensing. That's your right hemisphere brain helping you interface with the unseen aspects of this material world. When we apply this universal principle of mentalism, it is vital to keep in mind these two separate brains and learn to balance them, not come predominantly from one or the other excessively. So keep your connection to your environment and the natural world as it assists in connecting with yourself. It is in those times that you may come face to face with yourself. And with an inquisitive mind, you may hear that which needs hearing to either heal, let go of, embody, or follow, or reconcile. Connecting back in with your inner voice, the voice that speaks above all things. Mentalism. The next part is the Noble Eightfold Path. Funny how it flows into right thought. So right thought is also known as right intent. It is the second branch of the Noble Eightfold Path. Right view was the first branch of the Noble Eightfold Path, which reminds us always to remember there is a bigger picture at play. Right thought reminds us to always be mindful, for it is our thoughts, whether conscious or unconscious, that creates our experiences and reality, suffering or cessation of suffering. The thought plants the seed. By choosing right thought, intent, you choose to not only commit to a lifestyle of self-improvement and ethical conduct, but to apply it. In this, the commitment, you actually plant the seeds of happiness. The meaning of intent differs slightly to the meaning of intention. Intention often suggests mere ambition to achieve something, whereas intent often suggests the application of reason to actually achieve it. A clue to the distinction is that the words usually take different prepositions. So intention takes to, think of to-do list, whereas intent takes on or upon the action. Another way to look at right intentions or right thought is as the aspiration to create greater happiness, wisdom and well-being, and relieve suffering. Whereas right intent is the application in manifesting happiness, wisdom, well-being, and the relief of suffering through living a lifestyle of self-improvement and ethical conduct. So right thought plants the seed. Weaving them all together. Realizing that the universe is mental and right intent thought is the practice, that they are both the creator and createe of our experiences, mind and intention. What are your intentions for your life and experiences? We mostly play the major role in the dramas and stories of our lives. We do. And our bodies are one of the biggest influences on our experience of life. So look after your temple. It is time to own that role that we do play and have a say in how that role plays out. You play the biggest role in your life. You do, not anybody else. You do, because they're your thoughts, your actions, your deeds. You play the biggest role in your life. And I think it's time we all owned the role that we've played in our own lives that's gotten us to where we are, good, bad, or indifferent. Winter solstice, the void of winter, where we dream of the seeds we wish to make manifest, is an ideal time to apply the universal principles of mentalism and the path of right intent, or right thought, to seed powerful, positive changes in the coming turn of the wheel, where we begin applying these principles by conscious awareness, choice, and application. Right intention assists to remind us not only for this Sabbath, practice in soul star crafting, that's also part of the initiate's path, but as the framework for an initiate's path, as a reminder of what actual intent is driving our action. What intent is actually driving your action? The words you choose, the deeds you perform. What intent is actually driving that? And an important way to remember this is, like I said before, where focus goes, energy flows, reality grows, results show. There is no one else thinking our thoughts, voicing our narratives attached to our memories, traumatic or otherwise. Begin to create a practice each day of either journaling or inner reflecting on where you are at and what thoughts might need reconciling or correcting or changing. Learn to pause and listen. Practice checking in with your thoughts to see where you may need things, to see things from a higher point of view. And we do, and this comes back to the bigger timeline. There's bigger stories that at play. How can we rise above to sit and see, where have I been? Where did I go wrong or where did I go right? Where am I heading and what's next, kind of thing. It's realizing, trying to see that bigger picture by what are my actions, words, deeds, and behavior now, because that's going to dictate your future. Right intent assists in adjusting your thoughts so that your vibration is a match for the seeds ready for planting. So that's winter solstice, the mentalism principle, and right thought. So prayers and blessings to you all for winter solstice, and for those in the northern hemisphere with the summer solstice, enjoying the warmth and the sun and the sunshine. That would be so. We will get it again. There's always a time and a place for everything, and now it's winter, and that's that time for brewing and stewing and musing. So blessings, aho, amen, so mote it be. Thank you.